Ready? Excellent, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So today we are going to be hearing from several individuals who are involved in some of our outreach partners. There are three things that you should know there's four things you should know up front. Number one, this is a subset of a very small amount of our outreach partners, as you all know. And the reason that I'm up here and not any of our outreach co-chairs is because I came up with the idea that we should do it. And when you come up with the idea, you volunteer to organize. So here I am. But we purposely wanted to do this today to talk about, this is our MLK weekends. And when David and I were talking about what kind of forum hours the Social Justice Committee might want to put forward, we talked about really what we want to do is highlight the work that's already happening in the parish. Some of you are very familiar with the outreach partners you're going to hear about today. Some of you volunteer with them also. But this is really just meant to be a way for us to share what's happening now, why your fellow parishioners are involved with these organizations, and at the end to hopefully encourage either you or others who maybe are listening online to think about other ways that we may be able to get involved. The other things, I like a theme. So today's theme is feeding people. These are not the only outreach partners we have that feed people. But these are the ones I picked because 3 is a good number for a panel discussion. And I didn't want to have 15 people up here because that'd be hard for me to organize. And all of these organizations we're going to hear from today need more volunteers from the church, and there's different ways we can get involved with them. So the way we're going to run this is that I'm going to ask each of them a series of questions. They're going to start by introducing themselves, how long they've been at Emmanuel, and how long they've been involved with their volunteerism at their organization that they're talking about. They're going to talk about the mission of the organization. And is your involvement with the organization connected to your faith? How did you start volunteering here? And your favorite part of being involved with the organization? Hopefully we'll have some time at the end for questions if people have questions. But if you're motivated by what you hear to get involved, these are the folks you can talk to. So I'm going to sit because it's awkward to be standing in front of everyone. And we're going to start. Doug, can you start us off?
Sure.
You should be able to hear him with his mic.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Douglas Henry, and I am a co-coordinator along with Ollie Patton of Meals on Wheels, and our job is to wrangle the volunteers that we have and make sure they show up and deliver meals to Alexandria's homebound seniors. Meals on Wheels is a long-term ministry. It began in Philadelphia in the mid-50s. It's headquartered here now in Alexandria. It's a professionally run and organized national organization with assets at the end of 2021 of some $33 million. So it's a pretty big deal. The mission is to achieve a life-sustaining program that allows seniors who are unable to leave their homes to shop or have difficulty preparing a meal to have a healthy meal or have 2 healthy meals delivered daily to their homes, 365 days a year. My involvement came as a really recognizing that Ollie was needed some help, so I volunteered to assist him, and we alternate organizing volunteers on a monthly basis. The meals are prepared by Jeffrey's Catering, which is located all the way at the end of Wheeler Avenue in Alexandria, just off Duke Street. the volunteers meet there. In our case, for Emmanuel Church, it's the third Friday of every month, and we pick up meals and deliver them all over Alexandria. If you're a volunteer, you will see areas of Alexandria that you didn't know existed. It really is quite a compact jurisdiction given its size. Meals on Wheels, the local agent for that is the Senior Services Center in Alexandria, I think at the Nanny Lee Recreation Center. They're co-located there. But at any rate, they run the program in Alexandria, and they run several of them. Meals on Wheels is just one. They do sort of a Visiting Angels program as well. There's a direct pay program, say if you're on short-term disability and you're laid up with a busted leg, then for $12 a day for 6 weeks or whatever, we'll deliver meals there as well. And Meals on Wheels is supported by any number of churches in Alexandria, Bank of America, Rotary Club, and also the city. So they get a little help there. I've been at Emmanuel. Well, I first started coming to Emmanuel when I was a kid in the and then. And then continuously since about 1986. So now, my faith, such as it is, informs what I do, along with other factors. And if you've ever made a Meals on Wheel delivery, and it doesn't take too many of them, before you realize how absolutely vital this ministry is to the folks that we serve. And if that's not enough to keep you coming back, then maybe your heart is 2 sizes too small. And I doubt that's the case here at Emmanuel. What else am I supposed to?
What's your favorite part of being involved with the organization?
Is the interaction with the volunteers, and occasionally also with the folks that we serve. It gives you a nice warm feeling.
Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
All right, Connie, you're up.
Okay.
So first, if you want to introduce yourself and how long
Connie
you've been
Kurz, and Jim and I have been attending Emmanuel since, about 1984 or so? Yeah, that's about it. Right, we came back. I've been involved with Meals, I'm involved with Meals on Wheels too, but I've been involved with the shelter since probably 2000. I remember getting recruited by Matthew Schalbetter, was running it then, and I think I, at point, dragged Laura Snow, my co-conspirator, in with me. And today, I think maybe in the about 2006 or so, you and I kind of took leadership of the, and my big thing was, I felt like, about the meals themselves, that there was a lot of empty calories in the meals. And I was a newspaper editor for 35 years, and food was always in my portfolio, so it was something that was really important to me, that we get more nutrient-dense foods to these people who were in a really stressful situation. And I feel like, food is love, and we make a menu every month, and at the bottom of it says, "Made for you with love," by the cooks at Emmanuel on the Hill. And that came out of one of the residents who said, "We can feel the love," So anyway, we have about 14 maybe helpers now, and people can get involved at different levels. We've just lost a couple to Carla Murray and Annie Goldsmith to North Carolina. They moved away. But now we have the two Catherines, Catherine Haskin and Catherine Stanish with us, so that's cool. And the thing I love about it is the kitchen fellowship. That's always great to me. I've gotten to know a lot of different people over the years, cooking with them and chatting with them. And we have, I'm not, I guess, Debbie Hewson and Martha Manson, and there are others have been doing this far longer than me. But I think Matthew recruited us. We serve on the second Thursday of every month. We aim to do a protein and a healthy protein and usually 3 vegetables, so maybe a salad involved there, and a sort of fruit-forward dessert. A lot of these folks have a lot of medical issues, so we're looking for low sodium, low sugar when we're doing things, but not, we try to buy good, healthy food, and that includes going to the farmer's market. And there are a couple of vendors that I deal with. Especially the pandemic was has been a huge challenge for us. We've had a couple challenges. You may know that the shelter is on the beautiful new shelter is on Henry Street. It opened late 2020, right, Laura? 21. We left in June. We served our last meal at the old shelter, same place, but they tore all the buildings down and put up a 9-story low-income housing building with the shelter and then David's Place on the first floor. David's Place serves during the day a place for street people to come take a shower, do laundry, a mail drop for them. There are computers there. It's separate from the shelter, but right on First Street. And the main shelter is on Henry at First Street there. And the new shelter is just gorgeous. I mean, the dining room is one big wall of windows looking out to the courtyard. So it's just a much more cheerful place than the old converted DMV building that we were in for so many years. And there's some good things and bad things about that, because right now, of course, we're all masked. People are really concerned about, COVID. And there's also this sort of salad bar window in front of us and the folks. So we don't have quite as much interaction as like people used to come and go, oh, what are you cooking? So we always put up a menu. Because what do people want to know? They want to know what they're going to eat, that night. So, but we don't have quite as much interaction at the new place just because of all the barriers, Anyway, so that's.
Can I just ask one follow-up? I have
Yeah.
2 follow-up questions for you. One is you volunteer with a lot of different organizations. You do a lot of different things. Why this one in particular would you encourage people to get involved?
This is a residential shelter. People come here. The David's Place deals with street people, anyone off the street, and the shelter though is more intentional, and it's a real 360. People are admitted. They have a case manager. The main thing is to get them back into housing, and Carpenters has a 93% success rate in keeping those people in shelter after they've been with them, because Laura we have a very strict. We get there around 5:30 because there's last-minute cooking, and we had to put all the salads together, and they've got to eat right at 6:30 because at 7 o'clock there's financial literacy classes, there are computer classes for the adults. Now volunteers have been able to come back in, and they will take the children away for homework sessions or for younger children, to read them stories and do activities with them at night so their parents can do this after work. About half of the people coming into the shelter are fully employed and maybe have a couple of jobs. I mean, but they're also assist in helping people, sharpen their job skills. They provide. I remember one guy who was a carpenter and he needed a license, and they paid for that. There are other people who are going to ESL classes, or they are going to, healthcare. They want to become a healthcare aide, and so the shelter's under, is supporting them in that, so they get better jobs, so they get into secure housing. That they're putting the ones who are working, about a third of their money goes into a savings account. So the big challenge staying housed here is to be able to afford, the down payments that you have to put up front. So they help with that. So I like that it's this. And so we may see people for 2 months, or we may see people up to 6 months there.
My other question is, do you have to know how to cook to
No,
volunteer for
you don't.
Carpenter Shelter?
No. we have ways to volunteer at all levels. Some of our volunteers love to shop for us. I'll say, we need these things. What did you do this week, Catherine?
I sliced some onions and some cucumbers and dropped them off at Laura's house.
Yeah.
Perfect little half moons.
Right. So that when Martha and I set out to do all the salads, we had everything tossed together, and Linda Sarabian brought sliced eggs, and so anyway, we had it all done. We also have people who will make a corn pudding for me, follow a recipe, and then Laura and I tend to do all the main courses ourselves. So thank God I have a really large kitchen with 2 ovens and 6 burners, so we get it done there. Our new challenge is that they have in October decided that we needed to provide 20 additional meals for the folks down at the emergency shelter. This is a cold shelter down on Mill Road, right in the Carlisle complex, right near the new Wegmans, not too far from the Wegmans. So we're having to think differently, and adjust to that, because we like to serve a lot of fish, for instance, because they don't get a lot of that, and they really love it. And that's not going to, we bring it to the shelter the night we're cooking dinner on Thursday night, but they're serving it to those folks on Friday. So I've got to think about what will hold up, the kinds of foods will hold up and reheat well. So anyway. So those people get roast chicken, because that's easy to reheat. And plus Thursday's $6 chicken day at Fresh Market. So Jim Snow gets out his clippers and is doing
It's
the
a
chicken
family
for us.
affair.
Yeah.
Pluck them yourself, too.
All right, thank you, Connie. So now we're going to hear from Molly and Lisa to talk about Alive. So choose who wants to start on your intros.
Okay. I'm Lisa Clausen. Been going to Emmanuel since I was a little girl, so I won't tell you how long. I mean, off and on. Jim and I were away in Memphis for a few years, but other than that, since the 60s. I started, this is the mission statement. I printed it out from the Alive website. And it's to alleviate the suffering caused by poverty and to dramatically improve the lives of those in need in the city of Alexandria through faith and love, to help people faced with emergency situations or long-term needs become capable of assuming self-reliant roles in the community. And I always knew about Alive because it was always around in this church. We knew about the Alive Walk-a-thon, and we had food drives, and I remember Suzanne Lamb getting up and making announcements, and then Jim Wise. And before I retired, I was working at Mount Vernon Community School down in Delray, and I was a school nurse. And I saw, even though it was only a mile and a half from my house, I saw children that were hungry. I mean, they'd come in with stomach aches or headaches, and I'd see children that weren't excited about snow days and weren't excited about holiday breaks. And I'd ask them, and sometimes it was because they didn't have food in the house. So this is very close to us. It's our neighbors. Or a social worker would go out and say their refrigerator's empty. So this is right in our backyard. And was thinking about that, and I was thinking about Alive, and I heard one day, I think I was in the kitchen at the parish hall, and Jim Wise was saying something about finding someone else to take over the reins, and I went, oh, I'll do it. It kind of seemed like everything, my work life and my church life kind of intersected, and I thought this would be good. So I've been doing this about 4 or 5 years as the coordinator from Emmanuel Church on the Hill.
I'm Molly Lambert. I think Dave and I think we've been here for about 25 years. And I retired 2 years ago. Basically during the pandemic was still going on, and I wanted to do something. I was in public accounting. My whole practice was with nonprofits. I said I'd really like to get on the other side of a nonprofit instead of just, looking at numbers. So I started out with Alive just bagging groceries down at the bus barn, which is off of Quaker Lane. And back then, 2 years ago, they did have a lot of food distributions, twice a month pop-ups, because the pandemic was still going on. And then, I don't know how it came about, but they have a family assistance program. And Tom Fulham, who's still involved, but he was running the program for 7 years, and he said, I want to step back, I want to travel. Molly, would you step in and do it? And I said, oh, sure, no problem. So the family assistance program part of Alive is run down at the warehouse on Payne Street. We distribute food to people who are either senior citizens, over 62, veterans, disabled, or single parent families. And we also provide financial assistance, which I will talk a little bit about in a while. So I had to come, and my job is to kind of put it all together, and I also have to get 3 volunteers every day to come in. So when Lisa retired, I was like, hey Lisa, come on down and help me. So the volunteers is we have somebody at the desk, all referrals come through caseworkers for food, or ministers, or somebody, food and financial assistance, somebody at the front desk. If it's a food delivery, we call to make sure they're okay. Then we have packers that pack the food, and then we have drivers that go out and deliver the food to families. And even Dave is involved now too, because he's retired. We spend a lot of time together driving. So the way the food has come in, when I first started there, the pandemic was going on, so there was really no donations. We were getting food, maybe from the Giant, from the government called TFAP, which is the Emergency Food Assistance Program. And so now we are getting back to people giving donations. The big 2 drives, well, we have our wonderful thing at Emmanuel Church on the Hill, that's a big donation. Boy Scouts do their food drop in November, where they go around and they do things. And then we also get another big food drop in May through the Postal Service, where the mail people go out and do that. It's decreased a little bit, but it's good. And in addition to general donations and from the government, we're also getting food from Wegmans, Amazon Fresh, and I'm trying to think of, I guess Wegmans, Amazon Fresh is Giant, so, and some food markets. So we are getting a lot of sometimes Trader Joe's. This program also partners with other groups that the church is involved in: Christ Church Lazarus, St. Paul's Lazarus, St. Rita's, and the City of Alexandria. And so what we try to do is, when people, if you're a single person, you will get 4 bags of food, and then it will go up based on the number of people in your family, up to 8 bags of food. We can deliver food to people 2 times a month, and I think that we try to make a combination. We have gotten a lot of more food now. We used to just be giving out canned vegetables, canned fruit, but now we're getting a lot of more fresh produce from Amazon, and sometimes Wegman gives us a lot of prepared food, which is good for some people, to get a lot of fresh milk. But we're always looking for donations. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about and then I'll tell about my faith, but the financial assistance. I think the one reason I joined this with my faith is that I've always felt so lucky to be in a community where I feel safe and I feel secure, but then to go and help other people who need. And this is really, like Lisa said, in our backyard. And to help people that are just right in the area, I think is great for me. And I think one of the best things I like is working, like as Doug said, working with other volunteers. You just meet so many great people. I've met so many great people in the past 2 years. And just recently, Dave and I have really gotten into pickleball. And if it wasn't for a volunteer at Alive, we would not know our app and how to meet more people. So it just kind of feeds on each other with other things you do in your life. I did want to talk a little bit about the financial aspect, what we do. We have a very small budget when we think about all the needs in the city. It's like $515,000 a year. Rick knows this better. Rick knows a lot about it. We give out rental assistance, utilities, and in some cases medical to people in the area. It's basically, they're eligible for $6,000 every 6-month period. The need has just grown tremendously. I think the last statistics I did is we have to reject about 45% of the referrals we get because we do not have the funds to give out. I mean, it's just, and the need is getting bigger, so then we refer them to other places and they're like, well, the city's run out of money. So this is a challenge that is still out there. And the other thing I wanted to mention about food is that Alive is really growing. Through the omnibus bill that just passed in Congress, they were given $1.5 million for a brick and mortar warehouse to store all their food. Right now, we're storing it in the bus barn, which is off Quaker Lane. We also have Payne Street, which we probably still use, but if we could get a brick and mortar place to do it, it would be great.
What about the new Van Dorn?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that I'm going to talk about that next. And the other grant they got was through the city during the pandemic to have food hubs. One is at Van Dorn, and they just signed a lease on Friday for the second one on Mount Vernon, right next to the DCHS department. Yes, they just signed it. So, and I think that's in better place. And the food, I don't know if you've been there, Connie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The food hub is a place where people can go in and shop for themselves. In other words, we're not delivering food to them. They're not picking up bags. They can come in once a month. It's all run by donations, volunteer, and there's also assistance in there as well as learning how to get benefits, helping with your rent, and that's all done by donations and other things. The first one is on Van Dorn Street near the shopping center where it's South Van Dorn Street.
Yeah,
right on,
there are a million cool ethnic restaurants.
yeah, there's a lot of things, and then the second one I said is going to be right on Mount Vernon Avenue, next to the Department of Health and Human Services. They just signed that lease, and so that means that when the next one opens, we're going to need more food donations because the whole thing is to try to get donations. They do have a food budget, but they've been trying to limit that to seeing if we can get more donations. And like I said, my favorite part is working and really seeing Alive grow. It's growing from an organization that was completely volunteers to now having over a $5 million budget. So it's really grown a lot.
At the end of every meeting, the Alive meetings,
Yeah.
we say this verse together, and there's all different faith communities. I don't know how much you know about Alive, but there's Jewish synagogues, there's churches, there's mosques. They're all different faith communities involved, over 50. And we all say, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here I am, send me.'" And that resonated with me because I was like, yes, I can do this. So,
Yeah.
what else?
A question for you two. If people are interested in volunteering, what are some of the different volunteer roles? Do you have to sign up to be a coordinator and show up and do the desk, or are there other ways that people can get involved?
Yeah, if you want to work for the Family Assistance Program, just contact me. It's kind of, and then there's other volunteer. There is a sign-up volunteer.
Yeah, in the back, I left some
Yeah.
flyers you can pick up, and it talks about different, how to volunteer and who to contact and all
I think
that.
they will be looking for new volunteers with the new hub opening. I don't know when that's going to actually open, maybe a couple months. I don't know if it's
Right.
the rehab is. But if you want to volunteer for the Family Assistance
Oh, they're
Program,
always
come to,
looking.
yeah. Just because we just need to just show you some,
Yeah. And
I
if
don't want to
we-
send a driver out, say, have fun.
What about donations? This is our month, right, for Emmanuel?
Our month, we have, yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say that at the very end. We are collecting food this month. There's canned food and stable food. There's a collection bin here in the narthex and over at Zabriskie. So please bring in your donations and we'll get them down to Alive, and I'll announce how many pounds of food we've donated
Yeah.
at the end of the month.
Doug, I want to come back to you because I forgot to ask. How do people get involved?
Oh, well, you can go online to the Senior Services Center of Alexandria, or you can, probably better if you talk to me. I've got some more information on Meals on Wheels and volunteer applications that I'll leave in the back if you're interested.
And can you remind us what the commitment is for volunteering for Meals on Wheels?
It's 1 day a month, the third Friday for about 2 hours, I would say.
We made it 9:45.
Yeah, 9:45 to noonish.
And are you alone when you do the deliveries, or is
No,
there
typically
with
we
others?
have a driver and a deliverer. So,
All right. Well, thank you all for agreeing to participate in this and for sharing your experiences and also sharing with us what is needed from these different groups. Are there any questions?
One quick question is, while it's on my mind, is how does an elderly person, or who makes the cut with an a senior citizen who can't afford their food, whether it's Meals on Wheels or Alive? Is it their ability to actually cook? I mean, who makes that call, and why would they wind up in Meals on Wheels and not getting Alive donations, or vice versa?
Alive is all done, all our referrals are made by caseworkers or social workers or clergy, and it comes into us via email, and then we print out the referral.
Alive also does pop-ups.
Yeah,
Because
that's,
I've been involved in the one at
yeah,
Port
Rams,
Kelly.
yeah,
as
that's
a-
it, yeah.
And
Anybody can do
yeah,
that.
and they announced them. There were at different sites around the city, particularly in the West End, because traditionally a lot of the services were all in Old Town, but in fact a lot of the poverty is in the West End.
And we deliver food, we don't deliver meals.
and Meals on Wheels, you can pay $12 a day and get 2 meals delivered.
Yeah, we've had short-term, people have had like a hip replacement and just can't stand. And I remember walking in one time to a store and I'd forgotten to take my Meals on Wheels badge off. And the woman said, "Oh, that was a godsend for me." And she was a younger, I'd say she was in her mid-50s, but she had,
Yeah.
she couldn't stand for about 6 weeks. And so she was able to pay for that.
If you're, I'm not sure exactly how this works, but if your income is such that $12 a day is too much of a burden, I think that there are scholarships, if you will, that are.
Yeah, it's sliding scale.
Yeah.
I have a concern about the number of undocumented refugees that we have and whether they're eligible for services. These are people who may not be in the social services system. And how do you
Right,
handle them?
School social workers can call, clergy can call, anybody from across the street, DHS can call, school nurses can call. So you just have to have a referral from.
So what you're saying is there's no
No barrier.
barrier to it.
No
The
barriers.
pop-up food distributions
Just
that
as right,
happen
yeah.
at 3 sites in the city on Saturdays. It used to be, remember Suzanne Lamb would get up and say, last Saturday, that was supposed to cover people you know, when money had run out at the end of the month. They're now weekly. I mean, that whole program was entirely volunteer until they had to hire. When I was helping out, they finally hired a full-time person, and then she had to hire a whole staff during the pandemic. So there's no barrier there. They just go in, put their names in, say, I've got 4 family members, and then they're taken back and given food.
So no one is turned away.
No.
No.
And what about with Carpenter Shelter or Meals on Wheels? Do you know?
Pardon?
With Carpenter Shelter, do you?
I'm not aware of any barrier.
Yeah, I'm neither am I.
I mean, they just have to have room, right?
We have a lot of, I would say, immigrants or people who are learning English being served there.
I will say that I've seen some of the demographics of folks that are served by Meals on Wheels, and Latinos are typically a very small percentage. Now, is that because they're under the radar, or because they have family
Support.
connections helping them that other demographic groups don't? I don't know.
Has Alive resumed collecting and distributing furniture? And are we on the schedule for providing muscle to do that?
When you look at the little thing back there, it has the different categories in which Alive helps out Alexandrians. And one of them is furniture. And before the pandemic, we would sign up one Saturday a year, Saturday morning, it's really about 4 hours, to deliver furniture. And we have not started that again yet. I've put out some feelers and I didn't get any response, just, you know, I put it out in the newsletter. And I'm not sure whether people aren't feeling comfortable enough. It's, you know, masks and all that kind of thing would be, you know, required to go into people's homes. But what this program does is somebody needs a couch or a dining room table, and they find someone who wants to donate one, and on that same day that they'll pick it up and then they'll deliver it to the people that need it. So we just need the muscle, and we need about 8 people to work the 2 trucks, and it takes about 4 hours one Saturday.
Does somebody drive the truck, or do we have to also
Yes,
provide that?
Jim Wise usually drives the truck for us. Yeah, so and that's an option too, I guess. I don't know what's involved and whether you have to have special license or something to drive the truck, but yeah, so we need, including the driver, it would be 10 people. They usually have one person from Alive that drives one of the trucks.
Can I give you this, Debbie?
Well, yeah, and I think
Yeah,
that's part
that's
of
a
it.
problem.
Can I give you this just so?
Be loud. And I'm wondering, is it better to say and be honest, we can't provide that service, but we can do a lot more in this area?
I mean, yes, and that's sort of what I've told them. But because they're asking us to pair with another church, to do, you know, they really want to get the furniture program going again, and I don't have the answer right now. I mean,
A few years ago, the EYC kids stepped in. I remember my very short daughter talked about a sofa being delivered, and I don't know if they're available, but maybe that's
It's heavy
an option.
equipment. It's heavy. You know, you've got to lift this furniture
I mean,
up.
you have to have, and anyway.
I don't, yeah.
But that, like EYC is an option. You have to have, of course, the adult supervising. If anybody has any great ideas, I mean, that EYC is one, but if anybody has some great ideas, let me know. And I mean, maybe I'll approach the Boy Scout troop. I don't know, or Girl Scout troop.
Yeah.
I would love to hear from any of you or all of you how being involved in these ministries has strengthened, challenged, enlarged your faith.
Well, I can say that my faith has grown because I've seen other people that really care about the community and do the same things, and they enjoy what they do. My faith is tested because of all the people we cannot help, and that's really always a challenge. And we're trying to do our best, but I always feel like I wish I could help everyone who wants assistance, and we can't. But just to see the community of volunteers and and people are grateful when we deliver food or do anything, you know. Little kids come up and hug Dave. I mean, that's really cool.
I think the favorite time is it was easier to see this in the old shelter because there was less of a barrier between us and the people, but how everything settles down. There's a sense of calm when people are enjoying their food, enjoying sitting with each other, and there's sort of this peace. And you think, okay, we were able to do this. And I don't know, it just really moves me.
Lisa, anything you wanted to share in response to Randy's question?
Talking to me?
If you want to.
Oh, well, what she said.
They had good answers. In Girl Scouts, they do this. Whenever it's.
Oh, is that me?
I agree. It's like, I second that.
I can remember that. I agree.
Half of my Girl Scout meetings now are just like the girls being like, yes, that's what she said. So it is 12:45, and we had a good discussion, so I do want to be mindful of time. Any last words from any of our panelists? Besides volunteer.
Lots of different things you can volunteer for Alive, too. There's
Yeah, lots.
whatever you're good at, whatever you want to do, there's probably a job for you. So be sure to call the volunteer coordinator, or you can talk to me and I can talk to the volunteer coordinator. But there's something for everyone at Alive. There's just.
And I know, I don't know the date of it, but they are going to do their Empty Bowls Alive Empty Bowls event in February, and that's where you go and you purchase. It's pretty common to food pantries and stuff around the country, but people make bowls, if I'm right, and then you go and you get a meal of soup and bread. You get the bowl back, and they'll be doing some silent auctions and stuff too. And I think that's at the end of February, so if anybody would like to attend that.
The shelter runs on a help of 1,100 volunteers, and there are a lot of the meal providers. We're just one cog in this group. There are people who come in who read to the children or activities I think I mentioned before in the evening. There are people who take them on kids on field trips. The front desk is a huge thing. They always need help on the front desk. I'm trying to think, Laura, what are some of the other things?
We need experts in financial literacy.
Yes, right.
People.
Right.
Experts in resume writing.
Right.
To help them.
A lot of coaching, a lot of job coaching skills. There are a whole host of things that happen there. It's just quite amazing. We were fortunate this year, our group and a group from Bethel and from Westminster Presbyterian, and in addition to 3 individuals who were all named like Volunteer of the Year there. And they had this lovely event, sort of brunch for us all, and learning other people's stories and how they got involved was really quite interesting, because we kind of laser focus on the meal bit, but there are a lot of other needs there.
Doug, anything, any parting words?
I'm going to leave some material in the back if you're interested. And like I say, you know, the burden of the Meals on Wheels yoke is light, and there's a lot of return on your investment, so to speak. And I hope you can join us. Thank you.
Randy, if you could come up and close us out.
Could I ask you to stand, please? And join in thanking these brothers and sisters here for their ministry. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Lord God, we thank you for the constant reminder that we are to see you and our neighbor, in our rich neighbor and our poor neighbor, in our neighbor nearby, in our neighbor across the world. We thank you for the ministries of outreach to which you call us as a congregation and for what we can do together that we could never do separately. Thank you for these, our beloved brothers and sisters who share today of their journey. We ask your continued blessing upon all of our outreach ministries, those that are local, those that are regional, those that are national, and those that are international. May what we do and offer always be offered to your glory and for the healing and welfare of your people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.